All right, welcome to the Parableman channel. This is Jeremy Pierce, the Parableman, and I have gotten a new video recording software package that I have been setting up, and I wanted to see how it goes. So I'm going to do a short video today about something of not much consequence, just to get something in there that uses the new thing and see how it goes. So I've decided to cover a topic that no one cares about and no one has ever asked about, hardly anyone anyway. Why Parableman? Where did that name come from, and why do I use it? So the Parableman comes from some friends of mine during my college time. Uh, Used to play verbal games and say things that uh, were messing with people's expectations, particularly as a linguistic game, I guess you could say. I'd say something that was deliberately misleading, even though I knew it was literally true, and I would expect that people would take it in a way that was very different from what I was saying, and then stop and just sort of wait and see how long it took them to figure out what was actually going on. So, for example, I used to say to people, my father married his sister, and let them try to figure out what the actual truth was. The actual truth was my father was an ordained minister who his performed the wedding for his sister when she married her husband. He later did the same thing with his brother, and they're the only two weddings he ever did. So that the actual truth there is allows you to make sense of the statement that I said as being true, but obviously it's pretty misleading when you just hear my father married his sister. You think that he got married to her, right? Which is not what happened. So I do things like that. I come up with some statement that was literally true, but nevertheless extremely misleading, and wait for people to try to figure out what I actually was saying. And a couple of my friends said eventually to me one day, like, you speak in riddles a lot, you know that. And I'm like, well, whatever, that's fun, right? It's all in the spirit of enjoyment. And they ended up coming up with a name for me. They called me Parable Man. They even rewrote the lyrics to a song by They Might Be Giants called Particle Man. Parable Man, Parable Man. And I don't even know the rest of the words they came up with. I can't remember, but I thought it was actually pretty creative. And I wish I had a recording of them singing that song, or some transcript of the lyrics, because it would be fun to have these days, but we'll look back on that time. But I really actually have no idea now what the lyrics were. I just remember it being creatively done and apt. So that's where the name came from, and I started using it as a handle online, as login names and things like that. I used it in games as my game handle. There's still one game that I'm playing to this day that I use that name for, and it's my email for my main public email that I put out online. Parableman@gmail.com is my main personal email that people know about. I have one for work stuff. That's for each institution that I teach at. I have a teaching email account at those institutions, and then I have one that's from my alumni account, for that I use for professional stuff that's not teaching. But my main email is Parableman. So, and I named my blog that in 2003. I started a blog in 2003 when blogging was a big thing. Got part of blogging communities. I called my blog Parableman. It lasted for over a decade before the host decided to take it down. And I've only gradually been putting the stuff from that blog onto the new site that I have that is also called Parableman. So I still use that as a blog thing. When I did a podcast during the shutdown, I called it the Parableman Podcast. So that's the name of this channel on YouTube that I'm posting these videos to now, even though I'm not continuing it in the format that I was doing before. It was actually airing on uh, 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 an indie radio station as well. So that's the story. There's nothing to do with biblical parables, as some people have suggested, or thought it might be, anything like that. It's just the idea of a parable or a riddle or something a little out of the ordinary in terms of doing things with language. It is really the idea, and it wasn't the name I gave myself, but it's kind of stuck and has continued to be one that I use. So there we go. That's the idea. That's the history of the name Parableman, and why I call my channel Parableman, and why I call myself Parableman.